Welcome to the Gangcast, aka the Games and Not Games podcast. I'm Jan Garcia, and joining me, as always, is Isaiah Smith.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's going good.
Yeah?
It's going good. Yeah. It's
You ready, Freddie?
I feel like it's been a long week.
Now that we are not that we haven't been working before, but now that we're really on our P's and Q's with I think some of our projects,
oh my gosh.
it's like, man, when you actually are working and not
It's insane.
just thinking about working, that day is long.
No, but
That
really
day got
though,
a lot of stuff in it.
I don't know. I've been making a half effort to wake up earlier, get out of bed, actually get out of bed, not sit and scroll for too long in the morning. Cause that's
I
my
still
real.
think you gotta just, again, we're back to the trope of the show of me just making you cut things out or change things. You gotta stop that scroll.
It's so hard because it's all new information. It's all new content every morning.
Well, that's why they say it's bad,
drops.
right? Cause I've slipped back into being more on my phone than I should be, but I never do what you do because it's just too it just wouldn't work. Here's the thing. I feel like the effort of waking up. Why would I throw that away by staying in bed? Now I like doing the inverse though. I'm not a saint. We do tag time every night before we go to sleep, and that's bad for you because you're not supposed to be on your phone and stuff at night. But I like that as a cool down. But I think warming up I feel like it is a inherently cooling down thing. I feel like you can't warm up with scrolling social media. That's a cool down vibe.
No, that's fair. It's easy for me, it's easier to stay up late than it is to get up or get out of bed late, if that makes any sense. It's easier for me to shift my day back than it is to try and shift my day forward.
Yeah.
Where I'm going to bed early, but I'm waking up early.
Yeah.
Can't do that. It's tough.
Same. But you're getting there. You're getting out of bed. I wake up sometimes and you're not there.
Slowly but surely.
You're out there doing your thing. I need to go back to waking up early too because I've been waking up at 8. It's not late, but it's not early, So I want to get back into that too. All right, ready for games?
Let's talk games.
Game time?
Yeah.
All right. None other than Lorcana is what we've been getting into a lot lately. So this is a trade card game that I don't know why were we at the board game shop that day? They just moved locations.
Yeah, they moved to a new location.
Yeah, so if you're in the Valley area in Los Angeles, is it Geeky Teen Games? Yeah, that's our board game shop of choice. It's funny because anyone that is in this area and is a nerd I've talked to, they're like, oh, Geeky Teen Game, they're moving. I was like everyone's the community knows, it's definitely not a hidden gem or a deep cut or anything, but they moved locations to just another spot in the same general area, but just another neighborhood, a neighborhood over or something. And we had gone there. I feel wasn't there a holiday happening too around then? Was it
maybe the 4th of July?
I don't know. I felt like we had something going on, but you had mentioned wanting to get into trading card games. So what's your history with trading card games?
Yeah. So back in college, I was interning at Zynga. And there's where I met some friends who introduced me to Magic the Gathering. Now, for those who don't know, Magic the Gathering, huge, massive trading card game, tabletop kind of game, right? Where you're putting down monsters, you're attacking opponents, and doing all this jazz. It's been going on for years and years and years too, right? The longevity of Magic the Gathering is insane. But it was oh man, this is really dope. I got really into it. But then after that summer internship and I went back home, it's oh man, none of my friends play this. So I've been craving something new like that ever since. Funnily enough, once I moved out to California again, officially after college, my friends also got jobs in the Bay Area. And so we would meet up sometimes and I picked up again, I got new decks and bought new cards.
You were the real life Cloud out there playing Queen's Blood against people.
Facts. Yeah. I went to not tournaments, but whenever a new sort of season, for lack of a better word, starts, a lot of card shops would do tournaments, these almost mini tournaments for the new cards where you open up I think it's 7 or 8 boosters and you just make a deck right then and there and then you play with that against other people who are doing the same thing. And it was super down. I went to 1 or 2 of those, really fun. But then the pandemic hit and I was all right, well, I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like maybe, and I know that they have like the card, online card game. I think a friend of the show, Eddie, mentioned that he played that a little bit.
Yeah.
There's something about the cards. There's something about opening up a booster and seeing what shiny you get and all this.
Well, I'm online so much too. I'm like, I don't want to be more online.
True, right?
Like I need a non-screen activity.
I also feel like, I don't know, something about I know it's the same overarching company that like ultimately is puppet mastering all the like probabilities of getting whatever and whatnot. But there's something, it feels more fair about opening a booster pack.
Yeah, no, I feel you because
than it does about rolling and opening a DLC pack.
When I went to Vegas and I was only playing on the digital games, I just knew that they were like, I could eat if I had the courge to go to the table, but I didn't because I'm not good enough at the games.
Yeah, man.
But yeah.
But it's also a slippery slope because my friend told me that there's a nickname for like Magic the Gathering and all these kind of card games. It's called cardboard crack. And it's because like you and honestly, no lie, this is why I know I can never go to Vegas because like there is legitimately a rush. Like again, you get I get a rush when I open up a booster and I see a dope card in there, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna change the way I built my deck. This is gonna change my mana flow and all this jazz. So that said, I wanted to try crack again.
Oh my God, Isaiah.
And find a new trading card game to play and get into.
Jesus.
And especially knowing that you haven't, I thought it could be fun for us to find something for us to play.
Yeah, I really haven't played much trading card stuff ever. I had Pokemon as a kid, like every other human being on Earth.
Now, did you play Pokemon or did you just collect Pokemon?
I didn't even really collect Pokemon. I kind of just was like, it's in the ether, you know? Like, I think I tried to play against like a kid at school once, but I like didn't understand, like, I don't get it, like, you know? And then that was like the one day, and then we like, I remember though, we were playing outside, like during, I think at the time we did have because my school was weird, didn't have like recess really, but I guess we had like an outdoor like time, and we were just like like a prison, you know. We were just like sitting on the sidewalk, just like trying to play this card game. And then in college, I got to live like suite style. I think I've mentioned this to you before, but for like 2, maybe even 3 of the years I was in college, I got to do it because it was like a program where it's like you volunteer and you kind of live together and like volunteer together and whatever. And it was with a bunch of either people I was already friends with or people that kind of became like really good friends of mine. It was like sort of a fun like friend of a friend situation where that ends up working out, where it's like, oh, I think these people will be interested, and we like recruited people into it, and they were all like nerds, and it was really fun. And during one of those times, me and my friend Justin were like, what if we like played Pokemon together? We went on eBay, got some cards, and we're like, let's just play like just for fun. Like they were regular like first gen level basic cards. And that was a good time, but we did that like once. It was like one that was like, hey, wouldn't it be fun if we did this? And like we did it, and then it was like, all right, cool. So yeah, I've never like fully gone in on that. And then for the video game side, like deck builders, card games, I'm like, yo, I don't know. Y'all saying a lot of words to me. I'm gonna take it as disrespect. Like, I don't know what y'all talking about. I don't know how. And then, you know, and I always felt like it was kind of like, it always felt a little bit like bullshit. Like you'd be, when getting into these games, because it's like, oh, like I'm doing good. Like I'm working towards getting my 8 Stanley nickels. And then like your opponent, you know, I'll face like a good computer or like you or somebody. And you're like, actually, like I have the Stanley nickel modifier that makes all of your nickels actually count as negative nickels. And I'm like, man, fuck this game. Like, that's some bullshit. So that's kind of been my vibe with it. But you're like, oh yeah, let's try something out. Magic is scary to me because it's so like big and popular and like storied that I wasn't like that interested in starting with that as our first one. And then we were talking to the person at the board game shop, and they, you know, of course mentioned the ones you were already looking at, like Lorcana. I think you were looking at like one other one too. Like
I think Pokemon too. Maybe
just Pokemon, yeah.
Yeah, I think they either have a new series or a revamp or something like that recently where you could also get into it.
Yeah. And then so we went with Lorcana. Lorcana is the like Disney's trading card game. You know, no shade. I wanted to go on record. We're not Disney adults. It's not like we're like riding for Disney. Like we don't live at the parks. Like I don't want to spend my money to that degree, nor could I. I think if I tried, like that's a whole nother thing. And funnily enough, I think playing this game, I'm like, I don't think I know Disney as much as I thought I would. Like, oh yeah, I watched Lion King and like Toy Story and all that, which Pixar, I guess. I don't know if Disney owned them at the time, but whatever, right? Like I've watched a lot of hits, but some of these deeper cuts, I'm like, I don't know who this is. Like, you know, you had some cards in your deck. Like, so my deck was, we got 2 starter decks. Mm-hmm. Mine is the, well, I don't know. They've all called Into the Inklings. I guess the starter packs are called Into the Inklings, right?
Into the Inklings is the second chapter.
Yeah, so I have like some Moana cards and some like DuckTales cards, right? And then what do you got?
I got 101 Dalmatians and Peter Pan. So
yeah, so it's like, okay, pull up, let's learn it. Learning it was a process a little bit. I don't know if you want to get into.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
well,
fair.
those videos that you want to talk about the videos you pulled up.
So I'm big into whenever we try to play a board game or something like that for the first time, if possible, I like to just look up like a quick YouTube video, right? Something 5-10 minutes. There was no good short video for Lorcana. And I think it's because what would have helped me is a how does this compare to Magic video, where instead people were just teaching this game, which is basically like teaching Magic, which is really hard to condense down sometimes into 5-10 minutes. But so yeah, we watched a couple videos. I fairly quickly got it, and like again, I'm looking at just to make the one-to-one to Magic. I think getting the rules and explaining the concepts and tapping and exhausted and dead and all the abilities and all of that is just more inherently just more mechanically involved. So we had to watch a couple videos. I think we eventually got it.
Yeah.
Enough to where we could be like, let's just play a game. We'll go from there. We'll learn on the fly anything that we miss.
I think we got enough to where you could do that, which is fine because like Isaiah is I think every household needs this if you're trying to play games. Someone who can understand rules and then someone who is down to go and give it a go, and I'm that second person because like, yeah. And I'll try. Sometimes I'll give up. I'm not gonna lie. I'm zoning out, brains off, like do, like I've just powered down. And then like sometimes though, I also know that like we are wasting our time because like the lights are on, no one's home. You're like, should we watch another one? I'm like, you tell me because like I am probably not gonna gain any more than I already have. Like I'm max capacity. I do think one of them, we watched like 2 or 3 Lorcana videos. One of them made a little bit more sense to me. I think the one that was more like almost pretending to play a game because none of them really. Well, the thing that I need, and that's why I like to. It's half that I am a little too lazy to want to sit and try to like synthesize the rules for myself, but it's also half that the best way for me to synthesize stuff is in action. Like if you're like sitting me down and you're like, and then you have like the magic beans, your magic bean counter is to 3, and then the 3 is I'm like, oh my god, like I need just like, okay, let's pretend we're playing. Like, and I, and in a lot of first games for me, I'm also like not super competitive with like I feeling the need to win, and part of that is because I lose so often that like if I needed to win everything, like I would never have fun. And like this is a big sticking point for you and me, where I feel like you can be a bit of a sore loser because you're so good at games that I think like when you lose, you're like, damn, I lost. And when I lose, I'm like, oh yeah, like this is the expected outcome. It's like, I feel like the way I feel about my own ability in card games and board games and tabletop games is it's like when you're a fan of a team that isn't that good, in sports, where you're like, you know what? Go out there. We're like 2 or 3 seasons from really getting it together. It's like, yeah, like we're not really good, but I'm here and I'm a fan. Well, I feel like you are good. So, you're like, you got more, like when you lose, it's like, it means more to you. Well, I'm like, you lost to me and couldn't be me. I'm like, I'd be embarrassed too, but I don't know.
I guess it's fair. It's hard for me to refute that I'm a sore loser only because, I mean, not to be cocky, but there's not much data there to analyze. You know what I mean?
Wow.
No, but
wow. You're like, oh, I've only got like 2 examples. So,
but no, that is fair. And yeah, no, I do take on the game master rule whenever we do play games.
And I think you're good. I think you're good at explaining it. Like I think the reason these YouTube videos have gotten so popular is the written pamphlets kind of only can say so much, can only go over so much, and depending on how dense your game is, it may kind of overwhelm the player. While like someone showing the visual, like and and I don't blame the people that make the pamphlet because you can't make the pamphlet too long or else like no one's gonna read it. It's gonna be like unskimmable. So like there's so many issues on this, but that's why I'm also big on like those first games. I'm like, hey, I'll even show like we can even just do a mock game, and that's better for me than like trying to hear all the points. But I do think Lorcana is like pretty simple generally.
Yeah, I would say so.
So because now I'm wondering like do I know? So you have you start with like a set number of cards. I think it's like 7?
Yeah. You draw first 7.
Yeah.
You can mulligan if you need to. So
I think we're starting without mulliganing though, and that's what they recommend for like the first time that you play.
Yeah, I'll where possible, I'll just kind of like translate to Magic the Gathering, since I think that probably has a bigger known sort of like rule set.
And I will translate to what I hear when I hear these things.
Yeah. So you start with draw 7. You can mulligan. First player goes. They can't draw, but usually start your turn with a draw with a sort of upkeep step, where you're taking exhausted cards, you're putting them back, you're untapping.
Quick interjection. Mana. Mulligan, like you take a card out and you like take a new card in exchange or something, basically. Because I didn't know that term at all until I played Final Fantasy VII.
Oh, really?
I'd never heard that before in my whole life. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess, in as far as I know, mulliganing can look differently depending on the game's rule sets, but it's the concept of you have a bad hand, you do something to make it better. Yeah. And usually that comes with some sort of sacrifice. Most of the time that comes with, I think, some sacrifice. Like in Magic, I think you can either mulligan once for free. I haven't played Magic in a while. You can mulligan once for free, but then you can continue to mulligan until you're ready, but each time you draw one less card. So like you draw 7, you don't like the 7, you can discard that 7, get a new 7. You don't like that 7, you discard that, you get 6. You don't like that, you discard, you get 5. Until you're like, okay, cool, I'm good with this hand. In Queen's Blood, for example, you just get one mulligan if you want. Yeah. You can mulligan individual cards, but then that's it. Yeah. The next hand you get is your hand. In Lorcana, I think it's kind of a mix where I think it's more like the Final Fantasy, if anything. It's like, I think you just discard the ones you don't want, and then you just draw back up to 7, but then that's your hand. Yeah.
I think we haven't done it yet, so.
Yeah, because it's, one, we have starter decks, so they're not, the mechanics to get the machine rolling isn't so
I'm
advanced.
like, now I have the better deck.
Yeah, exactly. But yes, so, you start your turn, you draw, upkeep, you mulligan if you want. And then you get going. You can play one ink card. So, and I'm going to kind of bounce around a little bit with the rules, so jump in where needed. But the cool thing I like about Lorcana, in that it's a simplified Magic the Gathering, is that there is no individual mana cards. Like, there's no specific card that is just for mana. So similar to the energy in Pokemon or mana in Magic the Gathering. Instead, your characters become ink, which is the mana pool. If you have a card in your hand that you don't want to play this character, you basically sacrifice them and they just become mana for this game, for this like run. So I don't want to play who
am I always
Patch. Yeah,
I never used like Grammatala. She was always getting killed. I was using her as ink or whatever. And then there's a few cards that like you can't use as ink. Usually they're cards that like have some type of almost like buff debuff mix. Like we'll get into this later, but there's like reckless as like a trait, and I think they make it so that like, I think my sense of this game is they kind of want you to like have to play around with that like reckless trait, which is like, your character can't quest and they have to fight another character if that's possible. Like they want that spice, because I would just avoid it, because I'm like, I don't feel like dealing with this. I'd want to ink this card. And they're like, I know you want to, and that's why I made it so that you can't.
Yeah.
But continue.
So if it's a card that can be inked, then you basically turn that card into mana, and they're in your mana pool. And then you can ink one card per turn. Eventually you build it, you ramp up your mana pool over time, over turns. And then you tap your mana to play characters. They come in exhausted, or they come in drying.
Yes.
Sorry.
I refer to this, and I don't think the book does this, but like, it's funny because Disney, it's Disney, so they're like, well, you don't kill character, you don't fight them, you challenge them. Like, I'm like, okay, whatever. Yeah. But like, for the sake of learning the terminology, I'm like, okay, like I'm putting down some ink, and then for putting out a character, like if you want to put out a character, like I have Dewey the duck, he costs like 3, right?
Yep.
He costs 3 ink. So let's say I have 3 ink in there, I'm like, I'm dipping my pen into 3 ink droplets, and then I like tap them and turn them. And then I'm like, I'm putting out Dewey, he's drying. And I just kind of, or like, oh, what is it? He's still wet.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
he's wet.
He's damp. Yeah. He's just sitting there. And then he's like slightly like unaligned to like signify that he's like not in play. Like he's drying, he's demoistening, like whatever you want to say to like. Also, making dumb jokes like that or like leaning into the terminology, it just helps me also personally remember what's going on.
Oh yeah,
and that's a big part of me playing card games and like board games, especially the first few times I'm doing them. I always like to kind of narrate what I'm doing so that like, hey, this is like right, correct, like this is what I'm doing, like this is what's supposed to be happening. And it also, I've playing with other people, especially like if we play like with my brother Edwin, who also like is even like worse than me in that he's just not as interested in card and board games. So it's like card a bit, and he doesn't play them as often as I do. But like modeling that, so it's like, okay, cool, like we can all kind of see like, all right, like what's going on, and like I really need to break it down that way. But continue. You're almost done already with the what the game is, because
pretty much. Characters come in wet, and it takes a turn for them to dry. So you can't do any tap abilities until they're dried. But like effects and some abilities, any ability that doesn't require you to tap them, you can still do. Items and effects and traps and all that jazz, they don't have to. They just work.
You can just put them out. You don't have to. Which I feel like it's kind of weird. You don't draw
right?
them. Yeah.
I guess I don't know. They're stickers in the lore of things
I don't
or something.
know.
It doesn't. Anyways, once you have a card that you can do a thing with, you can tap your character to have them either go on an adventure, quest to have them quest, or have them challenge an opposing character. If you go on a quest, then they get with victory points basically for that like round. Like you basically tap them to get the victory points on the card,
which here is called lore.
Yeah,
or Lorcana.
You get lore.
You're getting lore.
Yeah. And if you challenge, then you do the whole like, attack versus defense. You lose health, so like eventually, you can attack. I can have Tinkerbell out on the field, have her challenge Dewey,
so
lose
nerdy.
2 health, stay on the field, and then
like
challenge again. Next
what damage
turn
does Tinkerbell do? Like what's her?
1.
So yeah, like as Dewey, I have like 3 shields, so I'd only have like you put down the little damage counter, and it's like okay, cool, like he's still out there, but he's a little hurt. Obviously, there's like, that's basically the whole game. Like there's other things that can come into play, like like I had this item that I don't get hit, or I had this thing, or again I mentioned like recklessness, where it's like a trait where you like have to challenge anyone that's available to be challenged, and you can't quest, so it's like a funky card, and there's ways you can like modify that. But yeah, basically you're trying to, the goal of the game is to gain enough lore to win. I think what do you need, like 20?
Yeah, first
so
20.
Yeah, so that's it. Like you, in that sense, you technically don't have to like challenge ever, really. Or you could like challenge a lot, just to, basically the point of challenging is like, okay, well, let me knock out their card, because maybe Isaiah has like, I don't think this card is even in your deck, but like, he has a character that like when they quest, they gain like 5 lore. Like, I gotta kill this character or like defeat them to, slow his momentum down. Something like that. Or maybe his character doesn't gain a lot of lore, but they have like some type of skill set that, I want to avoid or something. Like that could be like a reason to kill them or fight them or whatever, challenge them. But yeah, it's like, I felt like once we got going, I'm like, this is a pretty like, not simple like in a bad way, but it's a straightforward game. Like it didn't take that much to understand. Which I feel like that's always the case in almost any board and card game. Like it always is simpler than it is when you are trying to learn it, because so often when you're trying to learn it, like they're also throwing in all these other variables where it's like, and then this could happen and this, and then let's talk about, like in your explanation, you didn't mention like locations, where it's like you put out locations and pick, but it's like, all right, we're getting a lot of stuff like, or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, I think for big stuff, the locations is the only thing that like wasn't touched on, which is like, you can put a location out. That can also be like destroyed if you challenge it. And basically the benefit of locations is like they might have different types of buffs. Like, if you're questing at a location, like you get +1 shield or something like that. Or like, they also have their own lore points that they can gain. So it's like, I got a location out, I gain X amount of lore points every turn. That kind of thing. We played 2 games. You won 1 and I won 1, but we messed up both games.
Yeah, both games have an asterisk on them.
Okay, so let's start with I was the first offender, kind of unsurprisingly, but again, like because Isaiah's so card game pilled, I'm like, really, I feel like this is still your fault, even though it was my mistake. Okay, so what was it was like a character. I actually don't remember what character this was, but I had a character out that I thought could because what is it? There's like a evasive. So evasive is like a trait. Do you want to explain what that is?
Similar to Magic's fly ability, where you can't target it unless you also have evasive.
Yeah. And I had a card. I actually don't remember which card this was, but I had a card that I thought said like, oh, like this, like you're evasive for like. I thought it kind of meant like you're just evasive in general, like you have evasion. But the reality is the card actually said something that was akin to you are only evasive during your turn, which means on Isaiah's turn, like, and the point why this mattered was like he didn't have at the time an evasive card out that could then challenge me because it's like, oh, you can only. If you're evasive, only an evasive card can challenge. I'm sure there's, exceptions to that based on like, oh, a certain item or something. But like, that's generally true. So he's like, well, I really want to kill this card, but like, you're evasive, so I can't. But that wasn't true. Oh, actually, no, this is the card because it was the same guy. It was always the same guy. The card was Flintheart Glomgold, which was like, I was a menace with this card. This is like a fucking, I don't even know who this guy is. He's a villain apparently. From DuckTales? I don't know. Didn't watch a lot of DuckTales. And this is what the card actually said. It says, they'll never see it coming. During your turn, this character gains evasive. They can challenge characters with evasive. And I had 2 lore that I could gain when I like quested and stuff. And I was buff as hell. I had 4 shield and 3 attack, which is buff in the context of these starter decks. I'm sure maybe there's other decks that have like wilder stuff. But like in our deck, I think 4 might be one of the higher shields that you can have. So basically, I was out there, I was questing, I was hanging out, and I was basically, for Isaiah, unkillable because I thought I was just evasive. Because I read in bold evasive, I said, I'm evasive. And then towards the end, like, we reread it, and Isaiah's like, no, during your turn. When it's my turn, you're not evasive. So if I was out there, like, characters are challengeable when they're questing, right? If I was questing, like, he could have, like, pulled up and attacked my character if he knew that I actually wasn't evasive. Because I thought I was evasive the whole time. I was like, damn. And then we did the classic thing, let us know in the comments or on socials what you guys do for this. When we make a mistake like that, we kind of just play it out at that point because, or we like change right then, but like we just let whatever happened happen. Like, hey, like I'm not going to go back and try to like rewind, like whatever, or write it out. So that was my mistake and my bad. But then we played another game. Because I was having a good time. I like this game. Spoilers. We both, I think, are enjoying Lorcana a lot. You got some extra decks as well. So.
Yeah. I want to try some of the other builds.
Maybe we'll have time to play tonight.
Yeah, sure.
But you had your own fumble.
I had my own fumble. So this is the second game we played. Of course, I don't know, fucking Glomgold or whatever his name is.
Flintheart Glomgold. Also, what a funny fucking name.
Hilarious.
When I saw Flintheart, I was like, Isaiah's gonna be so peeved when he sees this man step out to the field.
Of course, he came back out. And again, I had no evasive cards to really try to defend with, and also not really any good like strong cards that you can attack him with.
Yeah.
But I did have a lot of mana, and so I was like, all right, my strategy is going to be build up to Super Pluto.
I'm sorry, a lot of what?
Ink. A lot of ink to build up to play Super Pluto. So I had 2 cards, and in my head, I'm like, oh, this is an unstoppable force, right? This is unmovable rock meets unstoppable force in my hand. I have Pluto, which is he's a 3/8. Sorry, is a 3/8 that costs 7. And he's got Bodyguard, and Bodyguard is like,
honey, I can be your bodyguard.
When he's on the field, basically, if you try to attack anyone, you have to attack someone with Bodyguard first.
Yeah.
You can't have someone with Bodyguard out and attack someone else.
Yeah.
But he also has an ability where every turn he gets back 3 health. So I'm like, oh, sweet. He's got
which up until this point, well, at least with the way we've been playing and the cards we had, we have not. And this is the first time it's my second game, but the first time we had encountered any type of healing because I had been kind of like keeping an eye out for like, because I'm like, man, these must be dying fast as fuck. Like, and I'm like, oh damn, like, that's what I want, my brand. I was like, oh man. So anyway, go on.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'll get him out. He's gonna be my defense. He's on my wall. He's no one's getting through. And then the other card I have is Jasper. Which and this is where I messed up. I played Pluto right. I read Pluto right. I played Pluto right.
I was like, damn, Pluto's like unkillable. Okay, and then like, Jasper stepped up. Yeah,
I'm gonna stop you from outluring me, and I'm gonna play Jasper, who I'm going to read what I thought the card said, and then I'll correct it to what the card actually says. Whenever this character quests, chosen opponent can't quest during their next turn. And again, if you remember Defender, if you can't quest, then you have to attack, and Pluto has to take all the damage from an attack, and he gets health back every turn. So I'm like, oh, this is unstoppable. You would have to do like 8+ damage in a single turn without anyone dying to beat me. Cool. What Jasper actually says is whenever this character quests, chosen opposing character can't quest during their next turn. So it's not that all of Janet's characters couldn't quest. It's that only an individual one would not be able to quest during their next turn. So my plan fell apart as soon as she brought that up.
So to really emphasize it, or maybe clarify it in case, like, because I feel like it's so very clear in Naruto because we lived it also, but it's like, what Isaiah thought it said was like, I can't do anything besides I think it's attack Pluto. That's really all I had to do that I could do, and that was it. And I can attack, like, what's kind of again cool to me as someone new to like a trading card game is because I don't like other card games. There's other card games where you like fight things, like so that's not like new to me, but where it's like, oh, you can do as much as you want in your turn, like up until like you can't do anything anymore. So it's like, oh, I could, if I had like 8 people out, which I did, I had a good amount of people out, but then they're all gonna just die. And then it's like when, so many things, I was uphill battle, but I was like, okay, well, all I can do is fight Pluto. I gotta fight Pluto with everything I have. It was like, that was my whole life, was fighting Pluto. And I'm like, well, I can't, like, and then Isaiah just questing, he's racking up all these points. I'm like, and I'm really trying to have like my Hail Mary moment. I'm like digging in the cards. I'm like, maybe I can like find a card that'll let me get more cards, and then the card will whatever. And I'm still so like impressed that like, wow, like what a ironclad fucking strategy. Like what the fuck? I'm just fucked here. And I'm like, let me read, and like half joking, half serious. Cause again, like, just because I'm used to losing doesn't mean I'm not like, kind of like a bitter bitch, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I was like, man, let me read. And there's also, we kind of have like a run, like I have a running joke of like, oh, because Isaiah wins a lot and things like, man, Isaiah's and Isaiah has really good strategies and stuff. Like that's why he wins. Like he's smart. Like he knows how to like figure things out, and he like whatever. He's the big brain on Brad. I was like, oh, and that's why I always joke that like Isaiah's gonna find some crazy card that's gonna just like, oh, actually, everything that was good now goes to me. It's like, why does the fuck? Like, so what was joked that like, oh, Isaiah's gonna put out the like, oh, you twisted your ankle and fell down all the stairs card or whatever. So like half joking, half serious, because like I was pretty bitter. I'm like, damn, like my whole plan stopped. I said, let me read this card. Let me see what's going on. Yeah. And I think I read Pluto as well, potentially. I was like, man, then I read Jasper, and I was like, wait a minute, let me see what Jasper actually, for effect. I was a Jasper. Whenever this character quests, chosen opposing character's character cannot quest. I'm like, not the whole person, not the whole player. And then I thought about it further, because again, this is like Lorcana, like Disney stuff. I said, so Jasper is like the henchman of Cruella de Vil, who was like, helping her with the puppies and stuff. I said, also, I'm like, man, I should have fucking known Jasper's whack ass was not going to be this goated ass character, because I'm like, why would Jasper be like, and not that it's 1-to-1 with like the lore of the characters, obviously it's like, creative, whatever. But I'm like, ain't no way that like, this fucking, he can't even stop these dogs. They're not even full grown dogs. Mind you, these are puppies, 101 dogs, they're baby dogs. So I'm like, man, ain't no way. I didn't think about that. I was like, how could he be so stacked? Because normally when you have like, not necessarily a stacked character, but like for instance, I had Simba at one point, and he was really weak because it makes sense, he's little, but I think he gets like a lot of lore, which I think makes sense. He's like an adventurous kind of like little animal, right? But like, man, I should have known when you said it was Jasper. Like, Jasper ain't never did anything wavy in his whole time. Also, keep in mind, I don't fully remember the movies. Maybe he was I don't know, maybe he had like a redemption arc or something at the end. I think at one point maybe he did let the puppies go. I don't remember. But I knew he was like, it'd be like what's the one from the one that you love? We have that shirt, the no touchy shirt.
Oh, the Emperor's New Groove.
It'd be like if what's his name? Her henchman? Krunk.
Oh, Krunk.
It'd be like if Krunk was like a genius or something.
Like, yeah, fair. Krunk would low key be like a really good card, though.
I could see him being like having something wavy in there.
He'd be like the Pluto. He'd be like super strong, but like kind of dumb.
Like loyal but dumb.
Ability, yeah.
Damn, now Pluto getting thrown under the bus. That's good. Also, Why Pluto's so strong too? Because I feel like Pluto. I don't. Maybe was
Super Pluto. He's wearing a cape.
Oh, he's Super Pluto. Okay, well, that's why.
He's not named Super Pluto, but Pluto, determined defender.
Yeah, I guess. Does he have a cape? Let me see the card. Yeah, he looks.
I'll throw it up on post. Yeah,
he looks. He looks like he has a lot of mind. But so we both won. But like the way I was like, so because I think I did win that game once we realized it. Or did you win?
Yeah, no, you won.
No, because I won the one that I messed up, and you won the one that you messed up. Like which made sense.
No. I won the one you messed up.
Really?
Yeah, and we logic that you would have won.
Right, which is like the wackest way to win. He's like, oh, I recounted it. It turns out.
To be fair, I only used the Jasper Pluto strategy for like 2 turns, and I did the math, and like after the first turn, if I had just played that correctly, you would have still won. Then
it's like it's almost like if I lost like a big race and they called me the next day and they're like, actually you won. I'm like, oh, I mean, I'm glad I won, but like literally yesterday when I was fucking crying in the bathroom, it would have been a good time. For someone to tell me that I actually won. Yeah, so it was just like, but I think we were tied in fucking up, and I think that's what also kind of gave me some I don't know, vindication or solace. But yeah, it was a fun time. The only reason we didn't play anymore is because it just got too late at night. Honestly, I knew when I asked him to play the second game that it was going to be too late, but I'm like, I really had fun, and it wasn't like crazy late at night yet, so I'm like, well, if we go fast enough, like we could go to bed at a decent time. We went to bed like 12 or something, but like, you know, for going to bed early, that was like a flop on that regard. But I think the last thing I want to give a nod to with Lorcana though, just let me know if you have some final statements. I enjoyed my duck strategy with my little duck brothers.
There's some cool strategies in these cards.
Yeah, so the one I had, I thought I grabbed the other ducks, I guess I didn't. It was basically where, okay, so I think Huey really had it, or Louie. Whenever this kid, there's like a trifecta thing. So if you get Dewey, Huey, and is the other one called Louie? I think.
Yeah, Huey, Louie, and Dewey.
Yeah, Huey's the guy I'm missing from what I have in my hands right now, because one of them, I forgot which one, has like when they quest, they like gain something extra if all the other ducks are out there. So like they become significantly more powerful or useful when they have like other ducks on the field. So, and what's fun about when you first start playing these kind of like games too together is you didn't know that. Like that was the first time you saw that because you don't have these cards. So it's like, you know, finally I'm like slowly getting all like the brothers out. And were you suspicious that I got all that, or you were just like, oh, you just have a lot of ducks?
I didn't think you had them. I knew what you were trying to do. I did not think you had the cards in your hand. Like I didn't think you were ready to go. I was like, oh, surely she'll be drawing these, looking for these fucking brother Huey ducks forever.
Yeah, and that's like fun. Like they're all like little friends. Like I thought that was cute. I don't know if you had a favorite real strategy and not the fake Pluto one.
I had a couple strategies. Some combo cards I have are Jetsam and Flotsam, which were like Ursula's little eel henchmen. Where like if you can get them both out, then they like kind of one powers the other. Where it's like, oh, like one gives the other attack and the other kind of gives the other defense. So you get like 2 super good cards as opposed to just like 2 regular cards on their own. But I could never get both of them out. I would either have to like ink one that I was sitting on forever waiting, and then I draw the next one the other turn, or like it was really bad. Every time I wanted to like ink something, it ended up being the perfect character that I could have held on to. Yeah. And it just kept messing up my strategy there. But you need to ink in order to get more ink to.
It's also tough because at a certain point, you really do like just run out of cards. Yeah. Like at a certain point, I feel like a lot of games that are, because I'm used to card games, but not trading card games. Like a lot of card games, I'm like not really wanting for cards too much, but it's kind of fun to like the benefit of like, oh, draw some extra cards. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll get like a really good card or something. Yeah. While this is like, I need card. And that's kind of what's nice too. If you have like a whack card, it's like, cool, this is like a great thing that you can ink. And then you can use like, again, you can use all that as much as you want. Like once the ink's out there. So if you got like 8, 10, 12, 5 like ink droplets, it's like, cool, I can put out whatever characters, I can put out whatever items, and you have just like more resources. But that's only really exciting if you have either a really like powerful or expensive kind of card to put out, or like a lot of cards you want to put out, which requires you to have cards. So it just towards the end, you do start to get like a little bit of a squeeze. But other game stuff, Fields of Mistria. Yeah,
we started playing that.
Yeah, so kicking it off with a disclaimer. Fields of Mistria, my colleague and friend Sarah Prozorski worked on that game, or currently works on that game as the social media manager, and I want to say like there's like another aspect to it. It's like a dual role. But she's been working on that for I think at least like a year, maybe a little bit more than a year. So that's my disclaimer. And you've met Sarah as well,
Sarah's cool.
but yeah. So disclaimer, Sarah's cool. So take for that what you will. But yeah, Fields of Mistria, it's a farming sim. As someone that's very tuned into like the indie scene, like this game has been genuinely like just I feel like factually getting buzzed for like a while.
I was gonna say it's kind of like
even before like Sarah, I'm sure Sarah's gifts helped continue it of course, but like even before Sarah joined, this is like Fields of Mistria, like I know what that is. When did you like first hear about this game?
I think it's funny. I heard of it kind of like you, like in the winds for a while, and I didn't realize what it was until knowing Sarah and like seeing it in the context of her helping with it. And I was like, oh no, I do know this game. Yeah, like it looks really good. It's reminding me of Stardew Valley and this, that, and the third. Which I have to imagine they both probably love and hate that they just. I'm sure people just keep saying it reminds them of Stardew Valley.
Or I also saw like it was very interesting. So Fields of Mistria, it's a farming sim, and it's been interesting. Like because again, I'm really into like the indie scene. Like I do that podcast, Indie Council. So it's like I've known about like this is one of the bigger indies I would say that's coming out this year. Like there's like the number one like everyone knows kind of indies like Silk Song, but like. If you are in tune with the scene, there's like other indies that ever kind of like when we've had our long conversations about Harold Halibut, where you're like, what are you talking about, Harold Halibut? I'm like, this is a huge game, like this is a big deal game in the indie scene. Like everyone knows this game, and like Fields of Mistria isn't maybe quite as viral as Harold Halibut in some ways, but like it's in that conversation of like, if you know indies, you've heard of these kinds of games. The same way you hear about like. Strange Scaffold, Xalavier's studio making like Click Golding and all this game. It's like, like this is like, it, but obviously like people that aren't as in tune are like, what is this? Like, so Fields of Mistria, it's been interesting. Like even just being on socials, like I see a lot of people streaming it because I follow a lot of like, I think Fields of Mistria also checks that like cozy game, wholesome games box. Like it was the one more thing of the wholesome game summer showcase last year. So like it definitely has like that cachet. And seeing people stream it on like TikTok, I've been seeing it a lot. And really? I do see That's cool. I'm nosy, so I wonder what they're saying about it or whatever. So, and like some of them have been like talking to the chat, like, this isn't Stardew. It's like a brand new game. Or they're like, no, this isn't a Stardew mod. This is like a different game. So I would be curious to know, like, I'm sure, like you said, it probably cuts both ways, but, and you've played, so my background too with like farming sims is like, I really like those games, but I actually haven't played that many of them. I'm kind of in a way, a newcomer to that genre. Like I played Animal Crossing New Horizons, which is, it's kind of like it's like a very small version. It's not like you have a farm, really. You grow crops, but it's not like you're, it's not as hardcore, I think, as other farming sims. And then I've played like some other little sims here and there, but I haven't like, you've seen me start Stardew Valley like 6 times and never really like spend significant hours with it. So this is kind of, in a way, my first like more, because I never played Harvest Moon as a kid either. So this is one of my first more traditional experiences, but you are a Stardew fan. And then like also, so I have the game, like I got a code for the game, like I do for most games that I like play and cover. At a certain point, I'm playing it every couple nights or whatever. And then you're like, I'm going to buy this game. So what's up with that? That shocked me when you were like, I'm buying this game. I'm like, oh my God. Like,
I'm so surprised that shocked you. Cause I feel like, because that I've like played and liked Stardew Valley before, I would have assumed it was just a matter of time in your head before I started playing this. Especially if you were getting into it.
But I thought you might be like, like, I wonder how many are Stardew Valley fans like, I want another Stardew Valley? Or are they just like almost, like, is that a negative? You know what I mean? I thought you might look at that as a more negative, like, this is just not Stardew, it's like another not like Stardew kind of thing.
No. If anything, having, getting more a little bit into like our takes and stuff for it, having as someone who's played a significant amount of Stardew, not like, hundreds of hours, but I'm definitely well into like triple digits. Like everything, all the gripes that I had about Stardew over time, I think this addresses pretty well. And there's not many, right? Like I like the chores element of this game. I'm not big into the relationships. Like even in Stardew, You know, I never really like cared about that. You know, giving people gifts on their birthday and everything like that. You can do that, fine. But to me, it's just like, I want to. How do I make this money? All right, I'm grinding
that
for
entrepreneurial
the
mindset.
Exactly. So yeah, so for me, being able to like go shop, being able to go into the mines, being able to water my crops. I imagine at some point they have like a similar like sprinkler system, and I can like go into my farm planning mind, right? Where I'm like, okay, this is where my potatoes are going to go. And then this row is going to be the flowers that give you the most money. And this, that, and right. You're optimizing. And then I'm going to get animals. And over here is going to be like where the cows are and the chickens. And I can do a loop around the farm to collect all the items. Like that's where my mind is. And this seems to be scratching that itch very, very well. So far, at least, right? Still very early. Like in game, I'm in, like day 9 or something like that. Like it's not very far. But I think it's got all the makings of an Isaiah game, something I can sink my teeth into and like get big brain with it, Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been enjoying it as well. I don't remember how many in-game days I am. Hours wise, I'm like 5 or 6, maybe starting to push 8 hours. Time wise, the Spring Festival just happened. Spoilers for the Spring Festival.
I imagine it happens towards the end of spring.
It was like end or like middle. It was like the 15th or the 18th or something. And like, I'm also like you in the relationship aspect of it. Like I haven't played a lot of games that have like romance outside of like, Life is Strange, where it's like, oh, there's like 3 people you can like date. And like, yeah, like I'll usually pursue one of those or something, like the drama. But like, I'm not really that obsessed with that aspect. I know some people like that's like their big thing. And I think this game has been huge for that too. Like a lot of the marketing and excitement is like, oh my God, all the characters are hot. Like they're all like really hot. And they are hot, but like I don't really care that much.
Sure.
It's like, it's like, like, and maybe I will get in a relationship in this game, but I'm not like
cheater.
That's why they don't have multiplayer and so like, hey. But I'm not like, that's not my number one goal, I'm like, okay, maybe I'll date this person or maybe I won't. And like, if I give people gifts, I think it'll just be more like, oh, I want them to like me, but I don't. And also like, it's something to do in the game. Like, oh yeah, sure. I can give like, oh, who loves apple pie? Like Elizabeth down the road. It's like, but I'm not really like, I want to fuck Elizabeth. You know what I mean? Like, because some people will play the game like, and Elizabeth is just a made up name. It's not any of the characters in the game, but they were like, oh yeah, like my whole life's dedicated to like getting with this character, which again is a fine way to play because like what's cool about games like this is you can have your own sub pursuits within the game of like what you get excited about, the thing that gets you out of your virtual bed in the morning. But for me, like I'm not getting out of my virtual bed to get into someone else's virtual bed. Like if that happens, like hey, like charge to the game. But what I want is those fucking little cows. Yeah. Those fucking cute ass cows. Like this game has adorable cows. And I love video game cows. Yeah, if you're looking at the video version, I have one of the plushies that I got sent from like the PR of this game. So that's my number one goal. My number 2 goal, and this is like, again, we're pretty early in the game, so like light spoilers for the game. There's this dragon statue that like is like the dragon of the years past of Mistria or whatever the fuck. And that's the only motherfucker I'm locked in with. Every day I talk to this dragon. Me and this dragon are right here because like he gives me little tips, and like some of the other characters give you tips about like the world too. So like that's the benefit of talking to them and stuff, and you can like learn how to like do tutorials and all that. But it's like, look, I talked to this dragon. He's like, there's a jump button. I'm like, oh man, he's like already showing his value. Boom. I can go to him and like fairly early on in the game, you get this like kind of ability where as you do chores and tasks, you can sometimes get, I forgot the name for it, but it's basically like mana, like magic points basically, or XP point, whatever, like points that you can trade in to like gain a skill. Yeah. And there's like little skill lines, like, oh, once you're level 1 farming, you can like unlock 4 different skills. They cost X amount of like little points. So you can go to the dragon and do that too, which also I feel like as a Jack and Daxter fan, I love that idea because Jack and Daxter is also based on that. You take your power cells, you go to the Oracle, and the Oracle's like, hello, idiot Jack. You are the shit, Jack. And then they're like, fucking give you shit. It all comes back to Jack and Daxter for me, really. And so I'm like, yeah, like, I fuck with this statue. Like, me and the statue are locked in. Everyone else, like, I've missed like 5 birthdays already in this game. I finally showed up to one guy for his birthday. It's funny, it's like the asshole guy. The like, he's like the brother.
Dude,
who's like, where he's like, oh, I hate you. And I'm like, You know, maybe a little something might happen between us, but also like,
well, will they, won't they?
Yeah, like I'm like, I don't know. I think he's kind of in love with me. So, yeah, like I talked to him on his birthday. I'm like, you know what? I miss everyone's birthdays. Let's talk to this asshole on his birthday. But they didn't like give me a prompt to like give him anything. Like something, I don't know. Like, you know, this is part of like getting to know the game too. Like one thing that's really exciting now that you're playing it is now I have, and obviously like, there's plenty of people I know who's playing it that I could talk to about it. But like I like the immediacy of talking. And also I like talking to you. Like no offense to everybody else on the world, but it's fun to like get to like talk about like games together and stuff. Like it's part of the reason we're doing the show, right? So it's like now that you're playing, I'm like, oh, at night when I'm playing Fields of Mistria, I have someone that I can talk to about like the fact that I had to fucking Google where the fuck this fishing rod was. Cause I'm like, I don't know. I never went down to the beach. I don't know. That part of the map was like removed from my brain. So it's like, cool. I can tell, like being able to tell you about the daily free soup at the inn. I'm like, I'm so excited to share this knowledge with you. Like I am very excited about that aspect because I love, there's nothing wrong with looking up guides for games. Like I have no shame on that. I think everyone should embrace like, hey, if you're stuck on something, get the answer. It can help you continue to have fun in your game. But what I love so much more than looking up a guide or a walkthrough is just asking like a real person. It's like part of why I like streaming, where it's like, oh, chat is going to give me the answer. Chat might be just Googling the answer themselves and telling me, but like growing up, like playing games with my brother and stuff, it's like the fun. I like that aspect of gaming when it comes to like getting help. It's like we can kind of just talk about each other and share it. So that's been really, really cool.
Yeah. No, same. I think the soup was a great tip that you gave. But then also just like, I don't know, there's something about when you're playing and you know, people who have experienced this probably know, it's like when you're having you're sitting next to someone also playing the same game. There's something just like, almost like comforting about that, where it's like, oh, you're there. Yeah, I just did that like 2 minutes ago.
Yeah,
like, especially when
I made your
close.
Trail mix.
Yeah, I was like, how the fuck how you make trail mix? And I didn't know that like, oh, you can go into the inn and like use the kitchen there to like, cook and stuff. I'm thinking like, man, they want me to build a kitchen in my house this early in the game. Like that's crazy. But no, it's like, oh, you told me like, oh no, you can just cook in the inn.
Yeah, and then you found out. But why couldn't you make the trail mix again? You like had to go to sleep or something?
I needed more berries or something like that.
You didn't have enough berries, but like I had enough, so I'm like, I'm gonna make your trail mix. Yeah. And that was very satisfying to like steal your trail mix from you. Yeah. I hope if they don't have proper multiplayer, I hope I can at least like mail stuff to you or something. I think that would have been fun. That'd be cool. Because it's like you need like a grasshopper at one point. I'm like, I got like 5 fucking grasshoppers just sitting in this bin.
Why are you collecting all these bugs?
Because like,
oh yeah. So
okay, go ahead.
I am curious, and we talked a little bit about this, but I can't help but notice that we both seem to attack this game from a like hoarder's mentality.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if this is for you to expound on that a little bit and the challenges that a game like this causes you to face. Yeah,
I feel like it's kind of a leading question, but I will answer. Walk into this trap. Yeah, like in this game, so many things are at play. One, I am not as familiar with farming sims as some other people, so like there are things that I just kind of miss. Like when you took your sword out and started like cutting the weeds, I'm like, is that how you cut the weeds? I've been fucking trying to figure out like how I get rid of these weeds. I thought I needed a special weed whacker or something that I just didn't get.
Oh my God, that'd be great.
A mystical weed whacker. I don't know. But like little things like that. But with this game too, I'm so broke and I'm like, okay, what's going to be my line to, how do I like raise myself from my bootstraps in this game? And I'm sure like, and I haven't gotten to the mines open yet or whatever, but like I'm sure like, oh, there's gonna be like special minerals in the mines. But like, yeah, that's gonna be obvious. Like I'm sure, oh, I can find like a magic ruby and the ruby's worth whatever. I'm talking about regular now. In the now, what can I do? And I've been just doing a bunch of chores because like I like doing the chores to like clean up my farm. And again, I link up with my man, the dragon. We're locked in. That's like I'm doing everything for the dragon. Like I'm gonna have the dragon tatted on me. Like it's crazy. So I'm like, cool. And with that, I get like wood and stone and stuff. And I'm like, okay, what do I want to do with the stone? Like, I don't really have my eyes set on certain cosmetics yet either. So I'm like, okay, I don't want to just sell like 80 pieces of wood. That feels like such a waste. Yeah. I should make something with this at least. So I started making chairs, selling chairs to the thing or whatever. 40 coins a chair. It's like not really making me that much money. But yeah, like I had my personal inventory full, like on my person, and then also my home inventory started getting full. And I just feel like selling 30 berries is a waste. I'm like, I should put this into a pie or something. But then I don't have the stuff for the pie. So it is a lot of like, I think what happens to like people in real life and myself as well, you know, like where you have something that is useful, and even though it's not useful to you now, you feel like you should like make it more useful. Like, oh, well, I have this, like, it'd be a shame to just like get rid of this because it's so useful. So I've been trying to figure out like, what am I doing with like all of my things, and how am I going to try to like, how am I also going to try to let go like of optimization a little bit, because this early into a game like this, like you're not going to be optimized. Like you are going to be selling like 8 apples to like somebody and then like taking what you can get until you can like invest enough to like form a system.
Yeah.
But I'm like, surely there's got to be something better to do than just sell these grasshoppers, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
What about you? You're finding filling the squeeze of items as well?
Yeah. And I think comparing it to Stardew, I think that's one of the things that I like best about this game is that, and maybe Stardew does this now too, right? Like, you know, I haven't played Stardew in a while, and you know, he's constantly making updates. Is that like this game tells you right off the bat, like, oh, you clearly had like, hey, this checkbox, this means that you've already donated this to the museum.
Yeah.
Or, like you don't need it anymore. It's accounted for. And it's like, okay, cool. I see that. I know I can just throw these bugs in the cell pit, and I don't get like $2 for them at the end of the night. Or like, oh, this random wild leek, I don't need this anymore because it's already, you know, again, it's already claimed. I've already got a couple in storage. Let me just start selling these now. But like, and we talked about this, there's always that like a little bit of like, but will someone ask me for a leak tomorrow or like the next day? And so it's like I get a little bit of that hoarder mentality,
because there's a community quest board where you can like take requests, and the request will be something like, what are the real names of the characters? Is there an Elise? I
think there's an Elise. There's like an Adeline, or
there's an Errol for sure.
There's a Jacqueline. I think
there's definitely an Errol. I think Errol's the man with the museum, right? Isn't his name Errol?
Errol, yeah.
So like Errol might be like, hey, I'd love, you know, I wish I had like 8 stone. And I'm like, I just got rid of my 8 stone. Like and I feel like 2 hours rewarded early on because I was like hoarding these like rocks and sticks, and then they're like, we need like a lot of rocks and sticks for the bridge. And I'm like, it's going to take me like 5 minutes. I got it done. Yeah. And that's why like I'm so locked in on the work. Like I said, I told you, I missed like 3 people's birthdays. Like I don't like, I show up on like every Friday they have like, everyone hangs out at the inn, and it's like some people play D&D and some people play cards and some people drink. And I'm like, I show up there all the time, and I talk to everybody when they're there and stuff. That's kind of after that. I'm back at the farm. Yeah. I'm like, hey,
I got work.
You know, I'm doing my best. I'm trying to like get stuff together. But yeah, it's been a fun loop. I think it's really enjoyable, and I think there are a lot of nice quality of life things. Again, I haven't played technically as many farming sims as you in the sense that like, I think you just have that Stardew background. That's really like I think the gap between us. But this is so like not necessarily based on that, but it has so many like, it's like that's like the modern farming sim, right? Yeah, and this is another modern farming sim. So obviously it's gonna have like similarities or be compared. It has so many nice like quality of life things, like where if you have too much stuff, you can just like leave it on the floor and it'll stay there like seemingly indefinitely. Like you can come back later and pick it up. I think like that's really useful. There's like a couple other little things, like you can jump into the water and like swim across areas, which helps because like the map is actually like low key kind of big, and I think it seems like it's gonna get bigger. So I'm like, whoa, this is like
it seems like there's still a couple places
area. So little things like that help a lot.
My thing is just the
you can craft from out. You don't need stuff on you to craft and cook, which is crazy.
You don't need stuff on you to craft, but you do need stuff on you to gift.
Yes,
which I think is a fair compromise.
Like, and that makes a little bit more sense. Like you'd need to. Even though I'm like, sometimes I do feel myself being really lazy. I'm like, can I just like ship this to the museum? Like, I don't want to go all the way up there. It's like all the way on the other side.
Honestly, that'd be a really good idea.
Because I also only, and maybe they will have stuff. Another thing I like too, that like I realize I live for in cozy games, because I was playing Lemon Cake last night, which is a baking simulator game where it's like, it's a farm to table bakery. Because you have the farm in the back. It's like a small farm. It's like a 1 cow, a couple chickens, but like, it's like kind of farm you would have like on your property where it's like not huge, but it's like a little thing. And in that game, as you get more money, you can buy upgrades as well. And I think the thing that I really love is, and technically every farming sim sort of has a degree of this. Like if you think of Animal Crossing, like, oh, you can get like the wheel, the wheel with all like your items and stuff like that. But I really like explicit upgrades. And I like that this has like those kind of skill tree-esque buffs of things like one of the ones I got early on was if you go to bed exhausted, you have an energy boost the next day.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, perfect.
Yep.
Like, because I love to work. So I love to work. So it's like, I'm just going to work myself to death and then go to sleep. And then I'm going to get rewarded for it. Like, this is great. Or, you know, other things like, I maxed out like the farming thing as for my level because they skill cap like the layers. It's like, I did like the one that you can do and then like, okay, you have to be like level 15 or something or 7 to do the next one, which is also fair. Like, because for me, because they know there's sickos like me who are like, if you let me, I will just gain every skill possible at once and like break the game. So they kind of, I like that they sort of force you there, but they also give you enough freedom to like, okay, I feel like I can do my own thing and check out different like aspects. But I like that because I think the key to a good farming sim, really any sim and any of these like cozy games that have a layer of roteness to them is that you want to find like what is fun, what's like the boring fun. Like these games are all about like you're doing things that are boring but they are actually fun. It's like, you know, hitting something over and over again and then you like pick up a thing to pick up more things. Like that sounds kind of boring. And for some people that is boring. Yeah. But for people that like that kind of stuff, it's like, oh, I love chores. But since you put so many hours into this game, at a certain point, some of those chores aren't as exciting anymore, or like the scale is too big. Like, sure, when I'm making a chair now, getting 20 blocks of wood or whatever I need is not a big deal. But in the future, when I want to build my cathedral, maybe I don't want 800 to get 800 logs. So maybe there's like things that can make it more streamlined for like that higher level player. And I like when things lean into it. And I do think that having that like magical layer to it, because Fields of Mistria is having like that, it has a very like whimsical like angle to it as a farming sim. It kind of reminds me a bit, I didn't play this like that many hours, but I did really enjoy what's the name of that? Fae Farm?
Yeah.
Fae Farm had some cool stuff too because it was very magical. It's called Fae Farm, so it's like fairies and stuff. But like you could do things like have like this magical watering of crops, which I think Mistria is also going to eventually. Like I was reading through the skills, and I think they have like you like spin around and all your crops get watered or whatever, and stuff like that is really cool. Like in Fae Farm, where Fae Farm leans even heavier into like magic, where you can like jump and fly around like the area. You can like at a certain point in the game when you milk the cows too, it's like the animation is like you're like lifting the cow up with magic and they like spin around and like the milk comes out of them. It's awesome. I'm like, that's so cool.
You're salad spinning the milk out of a cow?
I don't think you necessarily spin it really fast, but like to milk it like it's levitating and stuff. It's like a magical and I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. And it's different and it helps make it distinct, you know? Like there needs to be those like distinguishing factors that like, okay, well, why am I coming here and not other places? And I think the answer for Fields of Mistria, it seems, for like, why am I coming here and not somewhere else, is that it has like really cool quality of life stuff. It has a very explicit like magical element to it. And for me, the art style, like I know on its face, like some people might say, God, it just looks like Stardew Valley. But I do think, yes, they're both pixelated like kind of art styles. So they inherently are going to have some similarities. But now I'm like mixing up Fae Farm. Fields of Mistria has like a very cute, girly look to it. It looks like a mod, like, and that's why people say like, oh, is this a mod? Like, it looks like what people might make Stardew look like because they like that look, that like cutesy, the pinks and the little bows and the stuff. Like, it has a lot of attention to detail in that regard. It just looks so cute. Like, I want to eat this game.
It's funny. I wouldn't describe it as cute. I describe it more as, it's to me, maybe the characters are that more cute that you're talking about. For me, the game itself though looks more cartoony almost, and I like that. Like, I feel like it's more solid colors, maybe like thicker outlines if I'm remembering correctly. Like, I like that element to it. So that's funny. It's funny you say that. We have like very different almost interpretations of the art style.
I think that's kind of what makes it look cute though.
I guess that's fair.
Is the lines are thicker, and it just kind of like, I'm looking at like a screenshot of Stardew and a screenshot of Fields of Mistria, and I think Stardew kind of goes for a little bit more of a realistic look to it, even though it's still like a pixel cartoon kind of stuff. But like, I feel like it's going for a little bit more realism. It's like fall in, and granted, I looked at like, let me look at Stardew Spring for like more of it, because Fields of Mistria also starts in spring, so it's kind of like a different thing. Yeah, like this spring, it's like, sure, like in Stardew, they have some like pink trees, but the trees are also like very detailed. Like they have like all the leaves are kind of drawn out. And here, the leaves are like in tiers, almost like a Christmas tree, like how not like in a pejorative way, but how like a kid would draw a Christmas tree. You know how you draw like the little layers? It kind of has like a more fleshed out version of that. So yeah, it just looks very like cutesy. And I really like that about it. Like it looks,
I love the look of it.
It's so inviting and it's just very cute. It looks very cute. And yeah, there's like lots of fun details and like, I think too, even just like, I think this game kind of, and I don't know offhand what your house looks like in the Stardew when you start. I don't remember. But I think even just the fact that like your house looks decent when you start, they don't give you like this hole to start off with. It's kind of like, hey, we're like, it's all good here. Like you still have to work because it's like, that's what the game is. But it's like, we're not going to make it where you have to like die for us. You know, you can kind of just like join the community and help lift it up. It's not like you're, you know, I feel like they make you grit your teeth a little bit less and it moves a little faster in that sense too. Yeah, but I'm having a good time with it. And I'm enjoying our Fields of Mistria nights.
Yeah. I'll be playing some more today.
Yeah. I kind of want to play right now. Like because it's like also, I've been really loving the loop of games that have built-in like stopping points.
Yeah, where like each day you gotta go to sleep.
Yeah, and it's just like, okay, like, but then what's nice about that is like when you have other stuff, and that's why I like, you know, with running, like in real life, it's like, okay, you can see your mileage. Seeing what you've done and like making progress also makes it easier to like keep going. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I'll do a day, then I'm like, let me do another day. Let me do another day. Let me do another day, you know?
Yep.
It's been a lot of fun, and I'm excited to see like more of what the game has to offer because I feel like we're so early that like I'm missing some of the other sauces that like people might be like getting hyped about or like more conversation points on the game. But yeah, it's really cool. And this is like the first time in like a while. I guess we have Final Fantasy, but then we're playing a game at the same time because this you started not that long after me. Well, Final Fantasy it's like months apart. But yeah, I'll see you. What's the name of your farm before we take a break here? Move on.
Lakeshore Farms.
Lakeshore Farms. All right. I see it. Mine's Sleepy Farms.
I can see that.
And now for our not game section, I want to start off with some fan mail that will lead us into our next topic, which is how we go about cooking together. This question comes in from Ash, who writes in with, "Hi, Janet and Isaiah. These first few episodes have been a fun introduction to the two of you and your relationship. In that vein, how do the two of you handle joint responsibilities like household chores, bills, etc.? Do you have a chores board / bills list that you have to dole out and take turns with, or do you naturally fall into doing certain things for the house / each other?" Okay, so I feel like we're not that different than when we like first started. I guess I think the key differences from when we first got together and like moved in together to like now are sort of like little logistical things. Like now we have, I mean, even when we got our last apartment where like we lived together, but also with my family, like I think either your name was on the lease or like my name and your name were on the lease. Yeah, I think both our names were on the lease. And this is the same situation. But I think for bills, we do an even split for like groceries, utilities, and the internet's almost even. It's like $10 off basically or something.
Yes.
Just because they raised the price. And I was like, oh, they raised it? Do you want like the other bit? And you're like, whatever. So it's like, and then we do a like more percentage-based split for rent because that's like the biggest bill we have. And, you know, you make more money than I do. So that's basically, which I think makes sense. Like in my opinion, I know some people like will always do things differently. Some people like, oh, it's 50-50 no matter what. I think 50-50 no matter what is insane if you have like a big wage gap. Like I think if you make exactly the same or like negligibly different, I think that's totally fine because it makes because I feel like otherwise same difference, right? Like I know some people might do, oh well, you pay all the rent and I pay all the groceries, like kind of the janky math, which I think is also fair. But I feel like to some degree, I think bringing in a percentage makes sense if there's like a big enough gap between the two of you. Where I kind of start with doing the only math I know how to do, which is cross multiply divide, where I'm like, what do you make and what do I make? And then if we put in like X amount of effort, like what do the numbers point at, like percentage wise, where it's like, oh, how much of your income is like rent, for instance. And then sometimes I like fudge those numbers a bit. Like I'm used to paying what I've paid in rent, like when I lived with like my family back in the day in Chicago. And then I paid a bit more when I lived on my own with roommates, like in San Francisco. But it's like, I kind of have always made in my adult life the same general income of like that teacher salary fluctuated kind of entry level white collar job kind of salary.
Yeah.
So I've kind of tried to keep my bills basically the same for all of that stuff. So it's like, that's kind of how I came to that conclusion. And it's also one of those things where, we live in a like pretty nice apartment. We got like 2 bedrooms and things like that, where it's like, I'm totally fine like with like if you wanted to pay less, because I only can pay so much.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, you're gonna have to come down here because I ain't gonna go up that. You know what I mean? Like if you like, if you'd be like, I need like for some reason, which you'd never do, but if you're like, I need us to go 50-50, I'm like, you're gonna have to drop your thing then by a lot, and then like we just live somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because like even if I decide to like put up more money, it wouldn't be that much more money, because I kind of pay like what makes sense for what I make. I think other places that we deviate are like one-off things, like vacations and trips are also kind of similar. Sometimes we might like split it. For some trips, we might like I do one trip, you do another, especially for like I'll do like frankly a cheaper one, right? Like when we went to my friend's wedding in San Francisco, we just drove there. So I'm like, cool, I'll pay for the charging, our food and whatever. But like you had a friend's wedding too in the East Coast and like you paid for that. Obviously you paid more because we like flew and I think we were there for longer, but it wasn't like that. So kind of, it felt like it made sense where it's like, okay, well, like I'll do my thing. It's my friend. It's cheaper. So I can like afford it more easily. And you can do your thing. It's your friend. It's more expensive, but you can like pay for it generally. So, and then, I think that's kind of, gifts might be like that sometimes too. If it's like a wedding gift specifically, or maybe you have, like for your family, it's like, hey, do you want to like put up some money for it? Or like, your technical family, because right, it's gonna be all our families when we're married. But it's like, oh, like that's your squad, right?
Yeah.
Like same for like my dad for Father's Day and stuff. Like I always ask Isaiah, like, hey, do you want to like chip in and like just split it with me and my brother? Like, which I think you've always done, honestly. But like if you didn't want to do that, I wouldn't be like, that's crazy. It's because like, okay, like this is more like your, he's not your dad, especially before we get married. He's like literally not even legally your dad. So it's like, I get if you don't feel like you want to put up extra or something, but it's like, oh, like we can all go halves on like a really nice jacket or his little hot dog and snacks at the game and stuff like that. Anything else that for the money part of the divides? I
think the big thing is just taking a step back to the kind of like trips and stuff you mentioned, is that like one of the things we were in a phase of having like weddings. I felt like at least 2 or 3 weddings every year.
So many weddings.
For like 2 or 3 years. It was that post-pandemic, like as soon as the pandemic started to ease up some and like weddings were back on track, everyone was like, all right, let's get this going. And so we had a lot of weddings to go to, and the way that we kind of inadvertently broke it down is like, all right, if it's really like you're invited to the wedding and I'm the plus one, then like you're mostly paying for it. And if it's more of an I'm invited to the wedding and you're the plus one, then it's more like I'm paying for it. So like, which funnily enough worked out that like most of your weddings were on the West Coast. Yeah, California, weddings. West Coast kind of thing. And most of mine were East Coast. So I inherently just like to attend the weddings that I was invited to just inherently cost a little bit more, flying coast to coast and stuff. But it worked out. I mean, like I don't, I think we try to be equitable, not necessarily equal. And sometimes that looks like 60-40 split. Sometimes it is 50-50. Sometimes it's 90-10. Like it really depends on what it is.
Sometimes it's like 100.5. I'm like, hey, I'll buy you this sandwich because you flew me out here.
No, but I mean, like, we
for money at least, obviously. I think you're really big on like one thing that we've like talked about, like especially recently, is like acknowledging that we're a partnership and like contributions might not always be financial. Like, like what I bring to the table might not be the bag, right? But it might be like these other skills that are still like valuable. Or like, with the studio, for instance, like this was heavily, if not exclusively, like funded by you, I would say, which was like, it was a pretty penny, but like, it's like, I still, I help paint the boards, like do little things, but it's like, and I think it's easy, at least for me, to be like, like, I got like $20, it's like, oh, thanks, I don't really have like a lot in that regard, but, I do other things because it's like, and also it's because I literally just don't have it. Like if I had it, I would do. And I think we're both really, transparent about like what we have and what we want to spend and what we're like financially working on. Like for certain things, you'll like, and when those things come up, kind of same difference, right? Like I really wanted to go to, we went to the Leagues Cup game really recently. I really want to go. And I'm like, man, I want to go. I really wanted my brother Edwin to go as well. And I'm like, hey, like, I want to go. I'm down and just like, you know, I'm like, I'm gonna just get Edwin's ticket because I'm like, he might not want to go that bad to like pay for it. I'm like, well, I want you there. So like, if you're down to go, I'm gonna. And I felt the same with your ticket too. But you offered to pay yours, so you paid yours. You know, you paid parking or whatever, and bought us some cookies while we were there. Yeah, but it's like, if you didn't want to do that, I think that's like pay it. It's like I think that would be fair. But I really want to go, so like I'm gonna, you know, like I'm going and making it happen. So I think like those little things can be, you know, one-offs in that way, where it's like, oh, well, like, what are you feeling and what are you like in the mood for when it comes to, do you want to chip in for this? Or is it like, man, I don't even want to go like that to like drop the money. And it's like, okay, well, then it just comes down to how we want to go about it. Which I think you've been mentioning too with like, you know, now that the year's progressing and we have like next year coming up, you're like, oh, would you want to go do this thing? And I'm like, I'd want to.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't even put any money down for it. Like, you know, and then it's like, okay, well, how much do you want us to go, right? Is it like enough where you'd front that money? Is it like, like, I don't know about all that kind of thing? Like, and then we just kind of like play it by ear, but I think we both acknowledge like that we have different finances.
Sure.
Which also cuts other ways too. Like you have a car that you pay for. Like I don't have a car I have to pay for, you know? Like you drive me around places. It's not like you're like nickel and dime, you know? Like I don't pay for, which we talked about too. I'm like, oh, do you want me to like help with anything with the car? And you're like, nah, it's fine. Like, it just kind of depends on what it is.
Yeah. I think we find a good balance. And it's, so far the conversation that we've talking just now is like mostly been financial, but like you said, there's also things outside of finances that for me is more important than finance, like to a lot of degree, to at least some degree, if not, you know, a lot of degrees, where it's like, oh, like the, you know, housing maintenance stuff, right? Like, you know, dipping now more into the chores aspects of things where it's like, oh, you know, we need to make sure we're on top of our family's birthdays or like anniversary or things that like we want to, you know, reach out for, like, you know, community outreach, family outreach, friends outreach, making sure
that
forget
the summer reading that failed.
Yeah, that's, oh my god,
that was my project. You know?
You know, but also, you know, making sure like our schedules are in line, right? You know, making sure that like, oh, we, you know what we want to eat this week, and so like when the grocery and it's time to get groceries, you know what to get, and having a grocery list, like, is a lot of things that like. You can spend time making money and you can spend time kind of like managing your house. Yeah. And I think that in both places we're fairly equitable, but also in both places one skews more towards one person. Yeah. Where like I handle more of the like finance side of things, but you handle more of the like management side of things.
But even that, I mean, I don't think it's that like
no. Like, I said skew, not lean. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I would say that's true. And I enjoy doing that stuff. Like I've been reorganizing our apartment for like since we got it. And I enjoy doing that. Like it's my favorite mental breakdown is like, what if I redid the living room? Like, you know, you catch me in there and I'm just like fucking you know, you already talk about how I'm always dusting things down. I'm like, how did you like leave this top? Look, the top back shelf's really dusty. And you're like, yeah, like who cares, right? It's like, okay, it's like way out of view. But I enjoy like that organizational stuff. But I think too, like, going more into the chores stuff that Ash is talking about, and then we'll kind of lead into like our main thing of the cooking and the changes we made there. Yeah, we've done different things in different ways. Obviously, like coming together, we had different strengths. You know, I would say actually Isaiah is much more. Like, I felt like when I met you and I moved into your space, this was like a fully baked person, you know? Like, he's cooked, he's done, he's got his systems, he cooks, he cleans, he dreams, like, he's there. And I kind of do what I need to do to survive. I kind of have, like, a survivalist mentality. Like, I just wasn't very, like, good at cooking. I wasn't good at cooking at all, actually. And I really didn't know how to cook much at all. I had made a couple attempts here and there, but I was very uncomfortable cooking a lot of things. Like I had a lot of anxiety around like undercooking certain like meats, like and meat is like one of the, I mean, obviously you can be vegetarian and stuff, but like some type of protein is like the main bit of dishes, right? And I was like, I don't really know. And I didn't have like anything, any recipes, any like institutional knowledge. Like while you're like, oh yeah, I'm whipping together this thing, you could go to, you know, a grocery store and like grab a protein, grab a veggie and very easily like whip something up. No menu, no recipe, no looking at your phone. You're just like, yeah, I'm going to cook this. Cool. you know, and sometimes obviously it's like easier, so like or frozen orange chicken, you thaw it out and you like make a, but even that, like I couldn't do anything. I could make a couple things. Cleaning, I'm like fine with cleaning, but I just also didn't really have like a lot of roles in my life where I had like a more consistent responsibility in a sense, right? Growing up, it's like, okay, I didn't really do big chores like that. That was like a lot fell on Edwin. And then I went to college. So then it's like, well, I'm not really cleaning up during that time. So it's like I would do stuff, but not super consistently. Like I knew how to clean a bathroom and I would clean a bathroom. Again, I had the college suite, like I told you, and we did divide up chores for the bathroom. Like, hey, we clean the bathroom every week. Like this week it's you, this week it's this person, this week's whatever. Hey, dishes, how do we want to do it? Okay, everyone do their own. Are y'all sure you're gonna do your own? Because if not, we can just do a nightly like someone does it. Because like, don't say you're gonna do your, and then it's like, okay, what does doing your own mean? Does that mean you do it right away? Does it mean we go to bed with it clean? Does it mean we wake up with it clean? Like what's the whatever, right? So I've like done some of that, but like I wasn't as used to things. And then you just had done like more things than me as like an adult. Like you had, like when I moved in with you, you had your own place.
Sure.
Like I've never had my own place. I've always lived with like somebody, you know, whether it was family, roommates. So even just like having my like name officially on the lease, again, I'd been paying rent for like many years, but you just kind of had like done more stuff.
Sure.
So it's like, there's Isaiah and he's like really got it together. And then there's me, you know, bringing back to that board game thing where I'm like, okay, how do you play this? Like I'm down to play, but like I don't really, I've never really played before. So one thing we did pretty recently, like I think when we were lived in here, is I introduced, I found this deck of cards called the Fair Play deck. It comes from this book that I believe is written by the same person that has the deck, Eve Rotsky. Now the book, I read a little bit of the book. I wasn't interested in finishing the book, I gotta be honest with you. And it's because like I think it's a fine book, but it does it seems like she had more of an angle, and her inspiration of making this deck comes from what I can deduce based on what I had read. Her like, and I don't know if it's like I hope it's either her ex-husband or the husband got better, but it was definitely one of those, the cliche gender, like when you have a man and a woman in a relationship, I think it's very common for them to fall into gender roles, regardless of their individual like sexualities. It's just like that, you know, that's like the dynamic that we're societally conditioned to have. And I think a lot of people do have that. And I think she made her book and this deck to try to like create conversations and breaking things up. So the thing that I don't want to say I don't like about it, because it's not that I dislike it. It's just, it's not relatable to me personally. And I'm not just saying this because we're like, oh, well, I'm talking to Isaiah, so I'd never, whatever, right? You just, you know, that was never my problem with you. It wasn't like, man, Isaiah's not pulling his weight. Like, Isaiah's doing fine.
Yeah,
like, this was more something I wanted to introduce to, like, figure out what is a more equitable and even split with, like, what we want to do, what our strengths are. And the big thing with the Fair Play deck that I'll get into after, like, you chime in with your thing is the Fair Play deck has a different approach where it's much more holistically delegated. Well, I think the thing that I was curious about exploring and why I said, hey, let's try, if you're down, I'd like to try this deck out with you, is I want to explore what full delegation looked like, because so much of our stuff was so together that I felt like, hey, maybe it's a kind of two together. Maybe we don't need to both work on like the trash, for instance. We were just kind of playing that by ear. So maybe we don't need to play that, but maybe one person can just have that as their job and we can just have more jobs. But what were you going to say?
Yeah, I was going to say you mentioned like, oh, like, you know, when you found me, I was a fully cooked human being. I think a big part of that,
I was all doughy.
I think a big part of that is like the inherent more like independence nature that I have.
Yeah.
I think, you know, as people know, like you grew up with Edwin. You and Edwin are very tight. You were very close growing up. You always had each other, blah, blah, blah. For me, it was more like I had siblings. I actually have more siblings than you. Way more, than you. But like we weren't.
Yeah, a whole fleet.
Yeah, in fact, no, for real. But like we weren't, you know, necessarily close in age and personality and stuff. And so like a lot of me growing up was just like, oh, okay, cool. Like I'm learning the skills. I had chores. We had to wash dishes growing up and do this, that, and the third. And then it's like as I grew into adulthood, it's like, okay, cool. Like I found myself an apartment. Cool. All right, I'm gonna wash my dishes before I go to bed. I'm gonna, you know, clean the bathroom weekly. I'm gonna do this and do that. And also a part of that is like I think my personality like shifted to better accommodate those things where like I could, like you said, you know, I can get a protein, I can get a veggie, a grain or something like that, and just like whip something together. And it's like, Well, I didn't really feel like doing that growing up. And so it's like I had to learn. I learned that almost out of like as an effect to me being lazy and not wanting to cook. It's like, oh man, all right, well, I got this chicken here, I got this rice here. Let's just do chicken fried rice or something like that. And it's like, all right, cool. So you like learn that way. Cleaning's the same way. It's like I hate cleaning the bathroom, and I'm sure we'll get into that as we dive into the cards. I hate cleaning the bathroom, and my solution to that was just not get the bathroom dirty. Like do as little as possible in the bathroom, and you don't have to clean as much. And it was like, all right, cool, great. So
you took all your shits at like a Target down the road or something.
Yeah. So you say I came in as a fully baked human. I think it's more like I came in with a man who figured out how to play the game.
Yeah.
And
you had an efficiency angle to you.
Yeah.
But you had like the Bruce as well, like our cat Bruce, you already had her.
True.
So like you were, a caretaker or whatever. And I think it was also, easy for me to kind of come in, kick up my feet. And it's like, it's not that much more work to have a second person. But at the same time, just because like you can do everything doesn't mean you should do everything. Sure. You know what I mean? Where it's like part of the benefit of us being together should be that like I make your life easier. So like, could you, like, I think when we first got together, you did most of that stuff. You would like clean and do everything. Like we kind of split up the laundry, but I wasn't doing that much when we first moved in together. And now that we're like,
I feel like you were, but
yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I have no memory of doing like anything significant. But also I think, and that's kind of one thing I really like about our relationship. I always feel like you're very honest. So like, I feel like if maybe I said, oh, you want me to clean the bathroom? And you probably like, nah, it's cool. And like, you genuinely mean that. Well, I think some people might be like, yeah, I know I said it was cool, but then like, she didn't really push back. It's like, I feel like if you wanted that, you would just be like, yeah. Or you'd be like, hey, could you do this? And I'd be like, yeah. And it's like, there's no like, underlying like, oh man, like it's just everything is what it is. Like we have a very like transparent like conversation style and things. But yeah, so these cards, I wanted to preface the cards because I'm like, it came from like a woman that was like, my husband doesn't know how to do anything, and I'm like, this was not our story. It was very much not completely the opposite because that guy was whack. It's just that like you had a firmer skill set, you were more in your own flow. And then it's like, okay, how do we flow together? So yeah, like without like literally reading all of them, the card system that comes with this, you can buy them on like Amazon or probably other storefronts. The idea behind Fair Play is like you like lay out all the cards and then you kind of each pick like who's taking what card or whatever. And I think I have like my own somewhere. Oh, actually these might be mine. These might all be mine that I have in my hand. But it'd be something like, okay, one of the cards is civic engagement and cultural enrichment. So it's like, okay, which one of us wants to take that on? And like I took that on and I had my failed summer reading, for instance, or whatever. Or that's also like you could argue, I'm doing the fundraising for the American Heart Association. Like we did that last year as well. It's like you went on that walk. Like I was in charge of, like I did that. We kind of, I set it up in the calendar. Like I talked to the people. Like I had us go and then you did like drive us there and stuff. But like that was like my thing. We have like lawn and plants is one of mine where it's like I water the plants. It's like that kind of thing where it's like I'm in charge of doing that and you can just like, cool, that's taken care of because I have that card, and you have like garbage, for instance, is one of yours.
I think the not to again,
also not to only use garbage. You do more than the garbage. I keep using the garbage as one of them, but
not to just like regurgitate what the cards tell you to do and the directions and stuff. But like the other thing is that like so these are cards that kind of are a card for like kind of almost like each thing in life, like each chore, each kind of like, mental job that you might have in life. And the idea is that like, like your first pass through these cards is to take the ones that like you're most passionate about, right? Where it's like, I care about, I don't know, having a clean kitchen in the morning. So I'm going to take the dishes and I'm passionate about like making sure that like, the dishes are clean at night so that when I wake up and I make breakfast in the morning, I don't have to wash dishes the first thing. So I'll take that card. Cool.
Yeah, and good at it. Because I did the dishes for like 3 days and you were like.
No, I took it back,
You're like, I feel like the picture like out there where the coach comes up. But you're just you're like so much better at it, and it weighs on you.
Yes,
so much less
I care
heavily.
about it more. Yes,
yeah,
and advice inverse of that is like like the community outreach stuff. I don't care about the community outreach. I care about my community for sure, and like I care about the people around me and everything like that. But like actually like I don't know, like looking into the summer reading or even the ASL class and stuff like that. Like these are things that I'm down to do, but I don't have a drive to do them. Whereas I think you have more of a drive to like actually grow and like learn. So, you know,
and,
look into these things.
I like the little like like it's kind of like part of that research organization kind of thing. And it's also like, I think it's important to point out too, right? It's not like these are things that like you can't do or you're not like capable of doing or vice versa. It's just like who wants to do them. Like for me, one of the cards I have that I think I'll probably have like for a while until maybe, you know, life changes or whatever, or I get really busy. Like it's not like it's illegal for me to ask Isaiah for help or something. But the idea is I do everything related. The individual does everything related to the card. So one of my cards is laundry. So like I wash the laundry, I put the laundry away, I add to the shopping list when we need more detergent. Like the way this method is set out is like Isaiah, if I have laundry, Isaiah doesn't have to think about anything related to laundry ever. The closest you get is you take your own dry cleaning to the dry cleaners. But I think in an ideal world, like if I had a car, maybe I would even do that, right? Like the idea is it's fully yours, because like what she's kind of arguing is that a lot of times in relationships, you might have like, oh, well, yeah, you cooked dinner, but I was the one that like kind of like the thing she was pushing back on was, which again, I think is a very gender rolled experience that she went through, was, oh, well, he helped me out, but he asked me so many questions that I feel like I just did it myself. And while like there's obviously more extreme examples of that, I do think what's cool about the cards is that idea of that full separation where it's like you have groceries. Like the closest to me being involved in that is, since we do communally decide what we like cook, sometimes I might need to send you like, oh, this is what the recipe list has. But Isaiah does like all of that. Like you look at the, you know, what do we have? Like, what don't we have? You like go there, like you pick it up, you restock the fridge. Like I just kick my feet up and there's more groceries every week. I don't have to worry about that. And that's like you taking that card and you have like that fully on like your plate.
And a part of that is also necessity, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like,
because I used to have groceries too, and then and you're like, you know what,
and
this is kind of silly. Because why you're just walking over to get some groceries?
Exactly. Like we're you know we have a local grocery store that we can walk to, but it just makes more sense for me with the car and the license and all that to just drive to the grocery store. And
you like doing errands,
and I enjoy doing errands. Yeah, I put my audiobook on or something. I'm in the store. I know the aisles. I'm in and out. It's pretty easy for me. It's pretty quick. I enjoy the sort of therapeuticness to a chore like that.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, oh, that's a no brainer. I'll definitely take groceries. That's fine. But we have found some things like cooking, which kind of spurs this idea where it's like, hey, maybe this would be better not as a individual's kind of goal, and instead something that we come together and do, right? So like, we originally started out with like, oh, you get
the card system.
Lunches like, Monday through Friday, and I get dinners, Friday through Sunday.
You had weekday dinners. I added a lunch card because there was no lunch card. I did lunch and you did breakfast. And then weekends, I think we kind of just like freestyled it sort of because it's like, like it's the weekend, everyone kind of wants a break. And yeah, like after a while, like I just felt like it was so much work. And I think because our schedules are also a little funky, like I stream a lot at night. Sometimes you have like, you have that one meeting that happens at night for your job. You also have like your anime club that you do with your friends. So between like all of these things, like I did find that like personally for me, and I'm curious like how, I mean, we talked about it, but like to reiterate, curious how you felt about it. Like for me, there were so many times where it's like, damn, and then I gotta cook dinner. And I felt so much responsibility to make sure that like, because again, you're like, Isaiah's counting on me for this, for me executing my job. It's like, I gotta make sure that like we're eating and that it's not just like, oh my God, we're eating so late at night or like, and I'd have to like pre-cook stuff really early and I'd still kind of have to like be like, okay, well, you kind of gotta reheat it up. And it's like, I just felt like it was a lot of, and it took me a long time to like make these meals. And it's not even like they're really like super elaborate meals, but you gotta dice the ingredients and then you gotta do this and then you gotta do that. I'm like, oh my God, like this is like a big chunk of my day is just cooking. But what was, how were you feeling when you had, cause you had breakfast and you had weekend dinners?
Mostly breakfast and dinners. And then eventually we tried to just
you had the weekday dinners,
exchange it to, it's where I would do the weekday lunches and you do dinners. Yeah. And then like, I don't know, like you said, we found that like eventually while it felt more equal, it didn't feel, I'm going to speak for you for a little bit. It didn't feel equitable for either of us. And that like neither of us were happy. Yeah. Like,
it was not fun. I didn't enjoy it.
And so like the idea now that we have is we cook together most meals whenever like it allows, like timing wise and schedule wise and stuff like that. But like one of us takes on head chef role and the other takes on a sous chef role, where it's like, okay, if we're making a dish that is primarily a Janet dish, maybe she's the head chef, where she's, you know, reading the menu or looking at the ingredients and instructions and whatnot, and like calling out to me like, hey, can you, you know, dice me up a medium-sized white onion or something and put it to the side. Hey, can you preheat the oven to this? Hey, can you grease a pan and get it ready on a medium heat? And like, I don't have to think about the steps as much as what step I was given. And so I think that makes it easier for the head chef, which is like, oh, you're not running around trying to juggle things mentally and physically.
Yeah.
And the sous chef is like, oh, I'm just cutting onions. That's cool. That's easy.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just dicing this tomato or doing whatever. And so I found that I personally think that works a lot better, especially timing wise too, where it's like sometimes you'll be streaming and it's like, hey, can you warm up the food as soon as I'm done streaming? I'm really hungry. I want to eat. And it's like, oh, I'm already warming it up. Like it's a shared responsibility now. And so it's like, oh, I noticed that, oh, you know, maybe got about, 30 minutes left of our stream. Let me just start warming up dinner so that as soon as we're done, we can eat. And it's not like hey, your card is dinner. I'm just going to sit here until you finish and then warm up the food. It's like I'm shooting myself in the foot for the, I don't know.
The cloud of the cards.
Cloud of saying, it's your card.
And it's kind of the, that's what I liked about like, I'm like, let's bring in the system, try it. Because I think even when we first started the card system in general, there was like that skepticism was like, is this really going to make sense? And I think for a lot of things, it did make sense. And there's just one that like didn't. And I think that's what I like about like systems in general, right? Like you take it, you try it, and then you see like what does and doesn't work, and then you kind of adapt it. And this was like, art adaptation. And I think it's really good for another reason I had, and I think I was the one that may suggested that we do this. I don't remember who suggested it first, but I remember we did it once like for fun. Like, oh, what if we cook this together? And I was like, was it just me, or was that like really enjoyable? And you're like, yeah, like it was good. And then we kind of took it from there. But another thing that I like about it is I get so sick of my own meals. Like I have at this point, again, now I've learned to cook. So I have like, off the top of my head, maybe I have like 8 to 10 meals where it's like,
say like a dozen.
Yeah, where I'm like, I make this, I like it, it tastes good, it works. It's like not super expensive to make. It's like, these are good meals, like chicken pot pie, the vodka pasta. There's like a curry thing I make, like a couple little things like that. Mm-hmm. Cool. You have your kind of meals, which I'd say about the same amount, 10, 12 meals that you make. You're good at making them. They're tasty. We both like them. Cool. Mm-hmm. But I have such a hard time at this point now that I've built up this recipe book of finding new recipes, and then also wanting to try new recipes because I'm like, man, it's gonna be such a pain in the ass, and I haven't done it. So what I've liked about this too is I feel like the thing that I suggested to Isaiah about it was like, all right, y'all, like let's also try to make some new stuff, and we'd use that. We'll do that a lot for like the weekends, where like
it's like our experiment.
This is a good time where we have like with the New American Meal is like one of the books we have. I have the Friends cookbook and then the Studio Ghibli book as well. And it's like, okay, cool. We can like try stuff out, and then it's almost like a little like date night moment of like, oh, we're cooking this new dish together, and then we talk about if we like the dish or not while we like eat and like hang out. And that's been fun. And then the other fun part that I've liked, even though I haven't actually I need to get better at actually writing stuff down, is learning each other's meals.
Yeah.
And I know you're kind of more of like, you can just like absorb the information. Like I have to have it written down. Like I always refer back to like recipes, but like I'm excited to like really eventually know straight up how to make like your buffalo chicken dip, and you'll be able to like make the chicken pot pie if you're not even already able to do it because like we did it like last week or whatever. So I like that aspect of it where it's like, oh, I get to learn more about like, I'm like, okay, this is how like Isaiah makes mashed potatoes. I'm like, yeah, these count really good, and it's not that hard to do. It's like, maybe I have to remember how much of like the milk or whatever you put in there. But other than that, it's like, oh yeah, cool. I know how to make this. I made it. That's what I worked on. And it also makes like the cooking time so much shorter because literally it could be like an hour plus of me cooking on my own because it takes like so long to like dice the ingredients and then whatever. But like getting to have like, okay, I'm working on this step and they all happen like simultaneously. Like it feels like a real kitchen that we're in.
Yeah. And it works.
It's super easy. It's super chill.
It makes me want to actually go through. I bought that like one TikTok book where it's like how to bake, and it's like the idea is the book talks about not only like what the steps to the recipe are, but the why behind the steps. And so like you're not necessarily building a internal like recipe book in your brain. You're more building like rules for cooking in your brain, and then you can mix and match those rules as needed elsewhere in like other recipes or other meals, and And so eventually I want to read that and then like really, level up my cooking game.
Yeah.
I want to get better. I'm a big kitchen gadget person. We already talked about, I think, our creamy adventures and the blenders and things we want to upgrade.
The blender's
going to
be lit when we get the blender.
All
the good
of that,
blender, yeah.
There are a lot of things I want to upgrade and still get eventually. But I think the fundamentals is one of the things that I'm excited for us to eventually learn.
I'm excited too, now that I'm thinking about it, because I didn't think about this factor yet. I've been wanting to, for part fun, part function, because food is inherently functional because you can consume it. But I've really been wanting to learn certain things. It's a little tough because we have different tastes in food. Like I love, I really want to learn how to make, I think you would like this though, because you like eggs. Like tea eggs. Like I want to learn how to make those. It's like you like kind of like marinate. It's like you make like a hard boiled egg and like kind of marinate it in a certain way where it's like they kind of come out.
Okay.
I forgot having what like flavor profile, but you kind of add them to, they're Chinese tea eggs and they kind of look like, I don't know if you've ever seen them, but they look like this. They have like these little like,
oh, okay.
They look almost like cracked on the skin or whatever, but you can put them in like ramen and stuff and they're like really tasty and they're like good. Like people use them as like snacks where they have like that and like egg, not egg and like rice, I meant to say. And I feel like when we had it separated, that felt more, and then also kind of because with like the bills part of it, it's like, oh, well, are we going to like, do I just pay for some of those? Because I want to experiment. I feel like now we can kind of have that be a more shared thing of like, hey, I want to make this, like, let's go out and get the stuff and like make it and enjoy it together. And I think that'll be a lot of fun. I think too, this will like tie in well when we eventually take cooking classes together. I know it's something we've been wanting to do as well, but yeah, I think it's been really good. And I think the last thing I want to touch on about it is for cooking, I think a big part of cooking too is having like fail safes or safety nets, which is huge for like, I think we've been really good about dining out a lot less. Because one thing that we had talked about like months ago was, because I want to dine out more, but for fun. And I feel like the thing that I really want us to avoid that like I'd already talked to you about like months ago was I'm tired of us spending our like dining out money on like, and I like Wingstop fine. We talked about like our love of Wingstop before, but like, oh, we just got Wingstop because we like didn't want to cook today. Yeah. Or we just got like Domino's or something because we don't want to cook today. Yeah. It's like, that's so boring, right? Because it's like, oh, I really just didn't want to cook. So I just got some food instead of like, hey, I actively like if, for instance, today as an example, it's a Saturday. If we're like, hey, let's go out to eat together. And it's like, oh, it's fun. Like we're going to maybe trying a new place or whatever, instead of just like, man, like just order something, just DoorDash something. So I think we've
eating out by choice, not by like almost by force, lazy necessity.
Yeah, and I think the thing with that's two things I think have saved us. Let me know if there's ones I'm forgetting. But I think having instant noodles or like cooked stovetop noodles as a fail-safe for lunch. Yep. It's like, hey, if we're retired or lazy or whatever, it's like, hey, just eat some noodles, whatever, cool. Yep. And then 2, the frozen pizzas.
Yeah, I would say 3 is. We make a more conscious effort whenever we are cooking dinners to account for leftovers and be like committed to eating leftovers. Yeah. Like I know some people, and I think you were like this before we got together and stuff, where it's like, if there's leftovers, maybe you eat them, maybe you don't. After like a day, you get tired of eating the same thing. Like you wouldn't meal prep like spaghetti or chili or something like that for a week.
Anti huge meal prep. I don't mind because when we make a meal, it is good for minimum 2 days, like the day that we make it and the next day. Sometimes it goes for a third day. It just depends on what kind of food it is.
Yeah, you make mac and cheese. It's like we're not eating that.
It's like that's 2 to 3 days. Like when you might, or it's like, oh, it's a half day. Maybe someone eats it for lunch or something, like whatever. But the thing that I realized I don't like, because I've tried it before, is and maybe things will change in the future when like it makes more sense for our life. Maybe we're busier, kids and all that or whatever. But meal prepping, like I made orange chicken fried rice. And I made 5 days worth and it's sitting in my fridge. I'm sure one day I will go back to that. I don't want to do that. I don't like that.
To me, that's my home. That's like what I was that like necessity growing up. I hate it. I would just make something, make a big batch. I only got to cook once this week. That's great. I made chili for 4 or 5 days. And if I do finish it early or something, then you eat out, it was. I
don't want to eat 5 days of chili.
Oh, man, that's fair. That's fair.
Which like you have kindly accommodated that. Because we can easily, and again, I think in the future, I could see that being like, you know what, life's just easier if we like got this going. Like it just makes sense. Yeah. But right now I'm like, I feel like we can just make, because we still only have to cook like 2 or 3 times a week, which is not that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess like, well, do you have any other like cooking things that you want to touch on?
No.
I think we also clean as we go. You clean more as we go?
That was a big thing. I'm a big clean as you go person. And you are, I think,
here's the thing.
The opposite. You're not even clean when you're done.
No. What's sad is I am clean. That is me cleaning as I go.
Which is insane.
Because I do clean as I go. I just don't like, it's not enough because I'm bad at it and I'm whack at it. Like I don't know. And like, you got your interpretation. That's valid. But like, I definitely have washed dishes as I go, but then I use more. Like I'll wash it to use it again or something. Like I have nothing to show for it at the end. Like by the time you get to the end, it does not look like, I see you were cleaning as you went. Like, even though I am cleaning as I go, but it's not,
I think I'm
unsuccessfully cleaning as I go.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
You gotta give me that. Yeah, I'm attempting
to clean as you go. I'll 100% give you that.
No, but I'm really awful at it.
Yeah, no. The kitchen, 9 times out of 10. You know
I was there when I leave the kitchen. You don't know Isaiah was there. 9
times out of 10, the sink there's no dirty dishes in the sink. The food might not be put away, but it's like, it's not, strewn all over the stove or anything like that.
I don't know what it mentally. I ate. I'm like, why are we putting this food away? Just throw it in the dumpster. Like, I don't know. It's so hard for me. Like the times I have done it, like in the last like week or two, I really had to like mentally will myself. And honestly, part of it was probably only because I saw you like maybe working on something already. I'm like, he doesn't want to. It would be good if I put this away for him because otherwise I'm like, I'll make my own food. And I'm like, Isaiah, can you put the food away? I don't want to put it away.
It's just insane to me.
Maybe part of it is that it's so fucking high up in the shelf.
Sure.
That doesn't help. I'm not going to lie.
Sure.
Because I'm 5 feet tall. Isaiah's like close to 6 feet tall. He's like 5'11" or whatever. He can reach the top shelf.
Yeah.
I have to get on a chair or a step stool to get the stuff down. And that makes it like even more unappealing.
Sure.
So I'm not saying that it's justified, but these are the things that run through my mind. Or I'm like, the last thing I want to do is fucking scoop this into. Then you gotta like judge the sizing of it, and then like, it's a whole thing.
I mean, you're reaching out. I'll let you. I'll let you take the first step. That's fine. But at a certain point, I think it's again this is my toxic trait. Yeah, we've filled each other's gaps in the kitchen also by working together. I think that's what we're ultimately trying to get at. Is that by cooking together, by sharing.
It's a very
chores,
equitable reading of it.
We can fill the gaps that we leave behind. And yeah, so I don't know. Overall, I am very, very happy with how we split chores, how we split finances, how we manage things. I know it's not the end of things, right? Like, once we're actually married and, maybe kids will change things up again. All this stuff is subject to change and likely
when
will
the house
change
starts
even
exploding, that's going to be a largely you project.
Yeah,
the gutters and the flood system.
All that jazz.
Yeah.
Things are going to change over time. But I think the general approach to handling these things is what's solid. And I think that really works for us.
What, in a fucked up way, and our future kids, if you're listening to this, like turn it off or whatever. I'm excited for those kids to get old enough to give them some of these cards. That's what I'm.
Oh my God.
I'm building life skills for you. And I'm like, fucking free labor, let's go.
I knew people in college who they didn't know how to do laundry.
Me too. I
knew people
thought that
who
was
didn't know
insane.
how to cook. They can only eat out of a microwave. Like, and granted, freshman year for us, freshman year of college, you don't even have like a kitchen. Like you're in the dorms
you really
and
didn't
stuff.
know how to cook on campus,
but sophomore year, junior year, senior year, you still can't cook anything.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man, that's rough. Like you got to learn something. So. Yeah, no.
Again, obviously,
it'll be life skills that we're
not going to take it too far. Like some people do take it too far, and like they got their like, and obviously, like different people have different background. Like I get like if you're in such an unfortunate circumstance where like there are kids where unfortunately they feel like they need to like help their parents,
sure.
But some parents,
we're not talking about that.
Yeah, and the thing is, some parents just like they're looking with that. What is it, the Birdman gift with the hands? About not just labor but also like money. Oh, you made money, you gotta like give it to me. Oh, you gotta pay. Like, come on, like some people take it too far. But I think that's gonna be. We'll see how that all turns out. And then we'll be eating chili like 8 nights a week or whatever, just for necessity. I do think
I got my cubes.
Oh my God. We honestly have time if you want to mention those damn soup cubes that you got.
Really quick, I bought some meal prep like containers, and specifically for like soups and soup like things, and I got some for when I make chili. I can like meal prep my chili out to like, a couple days worth. And you just take a whole block of frozen chili, you put it in the pan, you heat it up, and the meal's ready to go.
Yeah,
and
you used it
Janet
like once.
Hates my chili. She doesn't like chili in general.
I started laughing and then I started joking.
And I think
I don't like chili.
You don't like chili, and you don't like how much I like chili.
It's not. That is not true. That's not true. No, I think we need. I would like to like chili. But at the same time, I think it's nice to have at least that shared as well. Because there's a lot of foods I like that you don't like. I feel like I need my things as well. Sure. But I'm down to like, I'm open to chili. But like me and chili, I don't think we're ever gonna make it. Oatmeal, I already given up on. That I'm not even gonna try again. Chili has hope. There's hope for chili. There's no hope for oatmeal.
All right. I guess I'll take that.
But yeah, I don't know about this chili. But I just find it funny that you have a special chili cube tray that you use like one time, and I get it.
How can I make chili if we're eating together?
I'd offer it to the community, like some friends, community outreach. Like
pozole.
Yeah. I think the last thing I want to say with the chores stuff. This one isn't cooking related, but again, since we're call out season, I feel like any day you could lose that make the bed card. I just feel like I wish you wanted so bad.
I
don't know why you want it though, because you don't like it.
I wanted it because my office was the room before,
right?
And so it made sense for me to do it. Now it doesn't make as much sense. You can take it if you want, by all means.
I'll take it.
I'll make the bed when I see fit. Also, unless you have a show. Actually, I would say most of the time now, unless you're going to the gym super super early, I'm getting out of bed before you, so you're the last one to get.
But
I'll
be going to the gym probably next week again, so it's like, I'm still fine making it because it's the morning. And again, if you don't care and I care, it doesn't really matter when, but yeah, sweet. Get my cards back.
Yeah, this is me formally saying, you want to make the bed?
If it wasn't for the fact that we had 2 bathrooms, I would totally just take the bathroom too, which I don't like clean the bathroom either, but Isaiah hates it. Like, you hate it so much, it makes it look like I like it, you know what I mean? Like, and that's also one of my least favorite chores as well. Like, cleaning the bathroom is such a pain.
Yeah.
Which, we could still do the kitchen bathroom split technically, but it would be a lot because I'd have to clean 2 bathrooms, so that's kind of a lot.
I wouldn't put that on my worst anyway.
That's the thing too. Isaiah hates it so much. He's like, I can't let you take this because it's like if we only had 1 bathroom or I don't know, a different just bathroom divide, it might make or like a bigger space where it's like we have a lot of bathrooms, but like maybe we have like a basement which also you can't have a basement in California, but like in the future, maybe one day, you won't have to clean the bathroom anymore because you hate it so much. But
I know, we'll see. But yeah.
All right, that's it for this week. You can send us your questions and topics to the email inbox@gamesandnotgames.com. You can follow the podcast version of the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket Casts, and everywhere else you get your podcasts. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to give us that 5-star rating.
And if you're an audio listener, remember you can get the video version over on YouTube at Games and Not Games. If you like the video version, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment. It helps us show up in front of more people. Please the algorithm gods. Also, follow us on social media. On Twitter and X, we're at Games and Not. Everywhere else, we're Games and Not Games. That's TikTok, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, etc. And speaking of socials, every week we run a poll of the show. Last week, we asked the community, what's your favorite Lunchable? And the results? I didn't even know this. I'm seeing these results for the first time.
Nice.
Pizza coming in at number 1 with 46.2%.
You guys are disgusting.
Followed actually fairly closely by the turkey ham.
Those are my
option,
people.
At 39.5.
I'm one of those 39.5.
Nachos and other didn't get many votes. This is 238 votes, so a good
sample size.
Poll number. Yeah, good sample size.
Yeah, the nachos are pretty good. Low-key, nachos, they're underrated for Lunchables.
I bought some nachos when I did groceries. Speaking of chores and groceries and everything, I got us one of each of the nachos that I could find at the store. So maybe we'll do some content, some social media clip outs or something like that, where we try these, we rank them, we talk about them. Or something there. So check us out on social medias if you're interested in that stuff. This week's poll, I think we're going to do how do you split up cooking? Kind of brought to you by the topic of today. The options are going to be split by days, one person does it all. We cook almost evenly together, or we don't really cook. If you have something that falls outside of that, leave a comment to the poll, reply on Twitter, and Twitter, and let us know what you guys do.
It's like, I don't know if you're gonna like try to cut that or what you're gonna do with that, but
no,
stay in there. But like, that's a whole nother website, yo. We are not on Twitter. If you see someone on Twitter, it's not us. It is a deep fake of our podcast. All right, gang.
Gang. Peace.